And if you follow my channel regularly, you'll know that I do like to post daily or every other day in my sort of community, my community section. This question, it says, honestly, I wouldn't be mad if Beyond was No Man's Sky's final update for current gen consoles, and then Hello Games spent the rest of this year and next year dressing up the game real nice for a next-gen re-release on PlayStation 5, etc. On YouTube alone, it got 235 votes, and it is split down the middle. It's 50-50. People said, yes, let's focus on next-gen. No, I need more now. And on Twitter, it got, I don't know how many votes it got on Twitter, but needless to say, the same reaction happened. So I want to get a conversation going between us on the call and also in our chat here. And let me know, let's talk about what lies beyond. What happens beyond? Are they ready to hang it up? Are they ready? Is this it?
You know, LZ, I would love to know what % of the people were on PS4 and Xbox opposed to on PC. Because if you think about it, if you're on PC, you want it now because you're not, there is no next gen. So, obviously we're going to want the features now on PC.
So actually, and I like that you say that, and I didn't get really any evidence to how many of these folks were on consoles, on the separate consoles, but I did see a lot of folks who rightly responded that I am on PC, it doesn't matter to me. And which is an odd response to me because it's not like they couldn't take advantage of the new bells and whistles, probably for free. They probably wouldn't have to buy the game again, as is the custom usually on PC, that they wouldn't have to buy the game a separate time. So that's good that you point that out, but they were talking in an interview, as Sean particularly in an interview, had said that they were ready to hang up their capes for No Man's Sky, so to speak, after Next was done. The overwhelming positive response of Next kept them going. How much steam does this game have left? How much more can we get out of this game before, as he says, they are unhappy with continuing to add to it? What else could we do to this at some point, knowing that we are on the eve of next gen and that No Man's Sky has been out for 3 years? What do you think?
So it's going to come down to how much money people spend on Beyond and how many people buy the game new at that point. I mean, with Next, they so many people bought it as a new game at that point that they said they had AAA sales numbers with Next. So, if that happens again with Beyond and they get another, 1 million, 2 million people to buy the game new, why not just keep doing and making money that way?
And we know they're working on 2 separate games at least, aside from No Man's Sky. But if it continues to sell units, why would they stop?
So can I address something, Legacy?
Yeah, go right for it.
So there's a couple of things that, off the top of my head, that I've recognized with that statement. Number one, technically, I think what Hello Games is trying to do at this point is they're trying to evolve No Man's Sky to a point where the game can kind of stand on its own without the need for ongoing updates. Otherwise, he wouldn't have made. But there's also an outcry from the community that they're wanting more. They hunger for more in the game. And although I think that the game feels really kind of well-rounded now, I think people find themselves kind of redundant, a typical MMO, right? And which is another reason why I think Sean Murray made the comment that he did in an interview during one of the stage demos that he was participating in. And he said that the community is going to see very common elements typically found in an MMO. Trying to evolve the game to where it's persistent and it keeps the community wanting to continuously play. There's going to be content in the game to keep the community coming back and continuously playing. With that being said, if they were going to release this on next gen, it would have to be like a No Man's Sky 2. And the reason, because PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5.
He might be coming in and out. Is he coming in and out for everybody else?
We lost Snow there.
Okay. Yeah, if he jumps back into the waiting room, I can grab him again. Sorry, we got most of what you said, but towards the end there, you were kind of coming in and out. I don't know. I don't know if it's my connection. I hope not, but.
Okay. Am I still coming across okay now, though?
You sound good at the moment. Let me grab Mr. Snow Obsidian again. There we go.
So I don't remember where I ended off at. What you could last hear me say. Well, I think I was moving toward the new console, right? And what I was saying is that Hello Games would have to come out with a No Man's Sky 2, and the reason why I say that is because PS4 is not going to be compatible with PlayStation 5. PlayStation 5 will always be compatible with PlayStation 4 games. It's just technology is always backwards compatible, right? Not moving forward. And so that would tell me that whatever kind of content that they're going to come out with, if they're going to keep their consumer base kind of tied into it, they're going to have to consider PlayStation 4 out with an all-new title to No Man's Sky. Does that make sense?
You bring up a really good point. As a matter of fact, in my poll, that was a pretty wide response, was that folks didn't wish to have the communities split. And as a matter of fact, having it's not necessary that they would have to split the community. I mean, we see remasters all the time. As a matter of fact, I think The Last of Us remastered. Y'all keep me. I know there was a PS3 game and PS4 game that were cross-compatible with each other as far as sharing their player bases. Does anybody?
The Last of Us was a multiplayer, wasn't it?
It did have a multiplayer mode. It was wholly unremarkable. It was sort of tacked on. I know there's some folks that they definitely played it and played quite a bit of it, as a matter of fact. I couldn't get into it that much, but I couldn't remember. I could have swore there was a cross-gen game. Now, a next-gen version of a game doesn't necessarily have to mean that it would be so next-gen that it would have to split the community, right? It could
It would, Legacy, it would, if the content solely worked off of next-gen technology.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, for instance, is that the PlayStation 4 rendering the game because due to limited resources, then the place to contain that content, like an MMO.
Okay.
See a remaster of an MMO, for instance, they've never ever request, but they did come out with an.
Let me see if I can clean this up for him.
Too.
Hang on here.
Well,
sorry about that. I want to see if I can try to clean this up for you because it's kind of starting to come in and out. All right, go for it again. Let me see what you think.
Okay. And that's why I said what I did, was because in an MMO you're dealing with wide-scale community play, right? If you expand the game so much that older consoles can't play it, then they're excluded from the multiplayer community of people. Do you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we don't want to risk splitting the community. So I think we've established that. I feel like that's consensus. Mr. Mike, were you about to go?
No, I mean, to add on to that, I think that we already have a split community with the different consoles at this time. So if they were just to rehash the game for PS5 I mean, obviously the multiplayer, if they did like you said, an upgraded version for PS5, would it be compatible with PS4? I guess is the question.
Mm-hmm.
So, whereas if they just continue to upgrade the current game, and then the current game will run on PS5 and have optimizations. I mean, look, right now you have HDR on PS4 Pro, and you do not have HDR on regular PS4,
Mm-hmm.
and just continue that type of visual upgrade, possibly, but still have the same base game.
And it doesn't split the community, which is important.
Right. And especially, I mean, if we get crossplay, which is, it's a speculation at this point for Beyond, with the online mode. If there is crossplay, then that's a whole different ball game we're talking about,
Mm-hmm. Crossplay, and that's a big one. Like, I really wonder, because we're seeing a gigantic resurgence, or what's the word for not resurging but surging? A giant surge in games that are going to be cross-platform, cross-save, and I would even risk to say that if gamers sort of throw their angry fists up enough, maybe things like cross-buy, right? Now, of course, Nintendo, the PC was always in. It didn't really have much of a choice, right? But now we're talking about Xbox was all in, Nintendo was all in for games like that they share, right? You've got Rocket League, you've got Fortnite, right? These are features that were easy to turn on, right? According to multiple developers, all they had to do was flip the switch, and crossplay was enabled. So much so that they enabled it by accident on PS4 for Mr. Star Jumper. Hello, it's a Star Jumper. Everybody, say hello.
Hello.
The big thing is that it was easy for them to do. So if it's easy for a tiny studio like those that made Rocket League, for instance, right? It would more than likely be happy. They would probably happily do it at Hello Games. So is that a possibility, knowing that we're 3 years in? Miss Natalie, good to see you. Is that a possibility for now, for crossplay, at least between the new platforms?
If they make online, if it's a new game mode where you join into online and it's server based and it's not based off of one person serving it, and they're able to limit what mods are loaded and things like that. Possibly if your console is just now tapping. Net spots have joined together to use the same servers now. Sony has agreed to use Xbox Live servers for future generations, so they don't have the back end to deal with it like Microsoft does. So it'll be really curious to see. I mean, I would absolutely love to be able to play with my PS4 friends. It would be insane.
Well, I think the speculation is there too that Sony and Microsoft are already kind of collaborating a little bit, at least maybe behind the scenes. I think, and I don't know if it's popular to say, but I think that there is potential that Stadia would support No Man's Sky. I think in one of the interviews, Sean Murray thought that Stadia was very intriguing to him. And Stadia would pose a threat to Microsoft and Sony.
If it's on Stadia, we could play on our phones all day. It would be insane.
And you know what? I bet Google would be happy to be a threat to Sony and Microsoft. Just because they can. They have the money to do it, right?
Right.
And as a matter of fact, I just read an interview today from somebody interviewed some executives at Ubisoft, and they went on record saying that porting a game to Stadia was, quote, not that costly. So essentially, we're really just taking the game, moving it over to their infrastructure, which I would imagine is probably a PC, either a direct PC version of it or a PC portion of it. So if it already exists, I imagine it's probably pretty easy to do. But Hello Games, really since launch, has pretty much been rolling in dough. I mean, they sold at least 4 million copies on PS4 since Next, at least. going by what information they accidentally leaked. That
Also, everyone thinks Vulkan is for optimizations for VR, but all of the Google Stadia servers are running on AMD graphics cards, and that is optimized for Vulkan. So who knows what we never.
No, I don't know much about the tech. I know that if I'm a consumer looking at Stadia, I'm not happy with the offering. Because it's too costly for something that I don't get to own and I don't get to hold in my hand, right? Their subscription model does not include the full games that I want, at least not all of them, right? And they had compared it to something a little more akin to PS Plus or Xbox Live Gold. Somebody said Stadia version is the third pillar. Jesus, I hope not.
No, I believe it's the third pillar is definitely content related, but I don't see why Hello Games wouldn't jump on that bandwagon. It's just another platform for them to continue to sell their product. And I mean, I agree with you. I think paying membership to rent games, I guess, in essence, I think that's what you're doing. Although I do believe that you have the opportunity to purchase AAA games that are being sold through Stadia. I mean, right now I buy all my games digitally through the PlayStation Store. I own very few disc copies.
Right. Yeah, we got some digital.
And then this is the free version of it. You can still play the games at 1080p. You pay for the game just like you do on Steam, and you play it wherever you want on your phone, on a computer. Yeah, it's only at 1080p, but who's really playing at 4K anyway?
That's true. Well, the people that are playing at 4K are the people that have the internet infrastructure to handle it, right? If you're running a measly 10 to 20 meg, or you're running DSL, you're probably just fine with the 1080 because it's probably all you could do. But somebody like me, who is on 1 gigabit fiber, right, I'm trying to get as much juice as possible. So I would love to try to run 4K. The issue is latency, right? With all of the Stadia hype, I need to be able to remind people that this has been done over and over and over, right? We had On Live, we had PS Now, we had whatever PS Now was before Sony bought it and made it PS Now. I can't remember the name of it. But there's been multiple cloud gaming solutions, and every single time I've tried it with hopes, it has failed on a fundamental gameplay level, especially for games that require reactive, twitchy gameplay, right? Like your Call of Duties and things like that, where there's that split 100 millisecond delay, which is enough to ruin your experience. Have any of us played that? Have any of us tried some of the cloud gaming solutions? Your PS Now, your Steam streaming and stuff like that within the home. What do we think of that? And do we think that it's viable now for Stadia?
I've done Steam streaming from one computer to another in my home network, and that's been pretty flawless. But to your point, this would never be for first-person shooters. But for a game like No Man's Sky, where you're not worried about hitting that headshot, well, not yet, hopefully.
Not yet.
But yeah, it's that you'll never notice the difference between 20 to 50 milliseconds. It's nothing. So
absolutely.